Well, welcome back, dear viewer. So, good morning, friend. I hope that you're having a fabulous day. Today's thought experiment is that I have been using different AI systems on and off for the better part of about 3 years to run my home, and I am begging you to do the same. Let me explain how life-changing incorporating AI as a homemaker has been for me. So, as usual, no edits. These are just my thoughts and experiences on the topic. And as usual, I have my notes with me. So, here we go. It is also 400 degrees out again today. It's the joys of living in Florida in the summer. So, if you hear my fan going, it is what it is. I must have some air moving. So, yes, it's true. I use AI. It has been a game changer in my homemaking, and I will give you some backstory on that here in a moment. I think it's funny that when I finally do tell my friends, because obviously I've been in the homemaking space for a long time. I'm very conventional and traditional in my homemaking, which means that I'm also like crunchy adjacent. And a lot of my friends are super skeptical when it comes to the use of AI, which I can completely understand and even empathize with. However, let me attempt to change your mind. I am an early tech adopter, but only for practical reasons. I was not on the iPhone train until my husband bought me one. I am not like a trendy tech chaser. It's just not in my nature to chase trends. And also, I'm just super practical as a person. So if I'm going to be adopting a tech, it's because it has a very practical use. Like, we were probably very early on the robot vacuum trend because it's so practical, especially here in Florida with animals and kids, with the Florida sand everywhere. Forget it. You would be sweeping and mopping like 85 times a day to try to keep your floors clean. And I'm not here for that. I don't have time for that. So, this is also something that I think I would like to explore in like a homemaking adjacent sort of video as well. How like the Proverbs 31 woman had a bunch of handmaids that she, fed and employed, and how like she had all this time to go out and run a business and look for purple cloth, But the reality of that situation as it applies to us today is that we actually do have a ton of maids in our house. We have, to name a few, dishwashers, washing machines, blenders, robot vacuums. Like, we do have help in our house. So are we actually leveraging the tools, the help that we have? And are we leveraging it well? And again, I think that's a tangential idea to this topic. But let's see where we go with this. So I'm an early tech adopter, but I need a real use case for it before I adopt the tech. So when ChatGPT and Claude came out, ChatGPT was what I used first, and I used the free version of it first as well. What I was doing is I was testing it, right? Like, I want to know what this technology actually could do to improve my life. And I'm not talking about like Jetsons robot space stuff, right? Like, I'm talking about a very practical level. So, also disclaimer, this is not sponsored, obviously. This is what I've actually done for 3 years. Clearly, I'm not sponsored by anybody. So I'll give you my first use case. So what I did initially was I was really struggling with our food inventory. And what that is I was end up doing like I was in the middle of wanting to do a pantry shopping challenge, like a no buy challenge. typically we do a no by November, and sometimes we also do a no by January. And so I think this was in January, where I had also just started working like a couple months prior to that, working outside of the home full time a couple months prior to that. So I was drowning, friend. I was absolutely drowning, where I just could not keep up with the 40 hours outside of the house plus all of the house tasks. And the number one thing that suffered, because it's just the easiest thing to let go of, was food. So we were eating out a whole lot. We were relying a lot on like frozen pizzas, stuff like that. And I did not like it. First of all, I could definitely tell a difference in how I felt when I was eating that garbage. And also it was impacting the budget, because eating like that is a lot more expensive than making things at home. However, you're trading your time in that use case, right? Like, I'm out of the house 40 hours a week. I don't have time to be cooking. So I have to figure something out. So I have in my freezer, I have a 21 cubic foot standing freezer. I also have I have a dry goods pantry, and I have a canned goods pantry. Plus I have my fridge that's inside with a freezer on the bottom. And then we have, when our old fridge stopped being useful for the house because it was a French door, so it didn't have, or no, side by side, sorry. Our fridge in the garage is a side by side. It stopped being useful because it just wasn't big enough anymore. We put that one in the garage as our garage fridge, which just holds like drinks and ice, right? So anyways, there was a lot to manage. And instead of like coming home and trying to figure out what am I going to make for dinner tonight, or attempting to meal plan on my only day off, I was just like getting overwhelmed. So what I did is I unloaded the freezer, the pantry, and the fridge, and I just spoke into ChatGPT. Like, I used this, there's a talk feature where you can just talk to it. And so I listed down the line, we unloaded the freezer into totes, and I listed exactly what we had, what it was, how many pounds it was. And then at the end, I had ChatGPT print me out a PDF, or had it create me a printable PDF inventory of each of those domains in the house. So the standing freezer, that got a PDF, the dry goods pantry, the canned goods pantry, and the fridge, all those got a PDF. So then I was able to tell ChatGPT to combine those PDFs into a single master inventory of our food. And then I repeated that same process for other areas in the house, like bathroom supplies and toiletry, like just anything where I was in charge, which was everything in the house, right? Where I'm in charge of keeping track of the inventory on everything. And if something runs out, it's just it's a major inconvenience if something runs out, right? Like, it's not a crisis if we run out of something, but if we run out of toilet paper and our toilet paper delivery isn't set until like 2 weeks from now, it's a major inconvenience to have to drop whatever I'm doing on maybe what might be my only day off and head to the grocery store and deal with all of that. Is it a blessing that I can just do that? Absolutely. But it's also an inconvenience. And if I can set up a system that can take care of that for me and buy hours back into my day, why wouldn't I do that? So here's where I started. I started with that food inventory. And then once I had this accurate inventory, and I double checked it, I checked over ChatGPT's work to make sure that what I said and what it produced was the same. And like, that would be if you're going to do this, my first caveat to you is that you need to double check your preferred AI's work. Not with a fine-tooth comb, mind you, but make sure it's close enough, especially with something like this where the exacts don't necessarily matter. You get close enough, you're close enough. Don't waste a bunch of time doing it so that it's like exact. Don't become a perfectionist about it. This is essentially what I'm saying. Okay, so that led me into, okay, so now I have an inventory of everything that we have on hand. sorry, a big bug, I think, just hit the screen behind me. I'm not sure. So now that I have an inventory of everything on hand, what do I do with it? Because it is phenomenal that I did not have to sit there and write all of this out. I was able to speak just like I'm talking to you right now and have it create me the PDF of everything and then merge all the PDFs. And then I had a printout, which I could hang in my pantry so that at a moment's notice, I could glance and see what I had on hand. Okay, so that's great. But then I was thinking, well, now what, right? Now what do I do with it? So naturally, the very next thing I said is I just asked it, hey, can you take my master inventory list and turn it into a meal plan based on these factors? And what I discovered the more I used AI, ChatGPT in particular, but I have used other AIs since then, and there's actually ones that I like better for different things. But what I discovered is the more data I was able to give the AI in terms of preferences, even real-time feedback, the better it got at doing the thing that I wanted it to do. So there is, I'm going to insert in here, there's the AI that I like to use better for this now is called Claude. That's Anthropic's AI. And I think Claude is actually better at some of these things than ChatGPT is. ChatGPT, I think, is still better at creating images, especially when I'm looking at doing interior design projects. But Claude, I think, is better at data interpretation and parsing out thought processes. So I actually use Claude for this now, spoiler alert. But for 2 years, I mainly used ChatGPT, and then I swapped to Claude. Okay, so anyways, I was discovering as I was inputting questions that if I told the AI to question me back, to basically interview me as to what exactly I was looking for, I would get much, much better results. So I said, can you help me create a meal plan using my inventory that I have on hand list? And it said sure, and it was able to take the inventory that it had created and develop it into a meal plan. So as I was reading through the meal plan, which was really quite extensive, I realized that there were a bunch of meal combinations in there that we were not going to eat as a family. We don't do a whole lot of seafood or fish for that matter. We don't eat super strange combinations, I guess. So for instance, I had a bunch of eggs on hand and I also had some spaghetti sauce, and one of the suggestions was to do eggs cooked in sauce, which I know is a thing out there for another culture, but that's not something that we're going to do. We're not going to eat eggs in red sauce. It's not happening. The thought of it makes my stomach turn a little bit, and I'm sorry if you really like whatever that is called, but I'm not sorry. We're not going to do it. So I was able to then refine the prompt that I had given it. Okay, can you, instead of going line by line down the meal plan and having it delete things, I started over. I was like, okay, I need you to interview me as though you were a nutritionist who was developing a meal plan based on my family's preferences and how we eat. At that time, I was batch cooking so that I'm still doing this, by the way. I'm batch cooking meals once or twice a week so that we have a bunch of completed meals in the fridge that somebody can just take the container and go, because we all have different schedules now. And because no one's at home being the anchor anymore, I can't be cooking whenever somebody's like, oh yeah, I'm hungry. Well, go grab a meal that's in the fridge and go. It's already ready for you. So I was giving it these parameters now. And then the results that I got in return was phenomenal. But it was because I, as the human, was giving it directives. This wasn't a passive sort of thing. It wasn't a one-time fix-all kind of thing. The more direct I could tell the AI in real time, the better it actually got at picking up my preferences and what I would want in the future. So then that little bit of upfront investment in the AI saved me hours in the back end, because not only now did I have an accurate inventory of what we had on hand, but I also had go-to meals that I could prep quickly and that I knew my family would eat. And that just became like a plug and play meal ideas instead of having to start from scratch every single week, which took a massive amount of the cognitive load off my plate. I just didn't have to think about food anymore because I had a system that AI had created for me, creating these things, and then I could go back to those things, right? Like I could just say, okay, week 1, I want to have these 3 meals on rotation. Week 2, I want to have these 3 meals on rotation. Week 3, and then if at any point we got tired of week 1, I could say, okay, substitute week 1 for week 2, or if I got like a great deal on ground beef, I could say, okay, go through my meals on rotation, pull out the ground beef recipes, and those are going to be week 1 now. And you can, like, this is so adaptable. I'm giving you a framework to work with here, but this can apply to anything. And let me explain. So the next system that came out of that was, okay, I have a meal plan. I have bought hours back of my time each week. And I have added health to my life because we're no longer having to eat out. I'm still able to make these meals from scratch, but the AI knows that I'm focused on batch cooking, high protein meals, like I was able to give it that parameter, low calorie substitutions, things like that. And so it became really, really simple to get volume meals for less than 500 calories with more than 40 or 50 grams of protein. So simple. And it just, now it's an automation, right? Now I don't have to think about it. It's already done. It's already built for me. I just have to go get the food and prepare the food. But I said, what if I can use these meal plans now to create a shopping list, and then I can import the shopping list. I can tell the AI what I need to buy because it knows what I have on hand. It knows what I'm planning to make, and it knows where I'm shopping, so it can go search for the best prices on things. It can aggregate lists because remember, it's really good at aggregating data, and it can then import my list based on what I have on hand, what I'm making, and where I'm going to be shopping to, let's say, Walmart delivery. I don't even have to make the list. Like, I just have to check it over to make sure that it's legit. And then I can import that list up to like Walmart delivery, and I can get my groceries delivered now. And now I have not just bought back the hours that it takes me to recipe plan, meal plan, and grocery. Now I've added the hours that it takes to run around town and get the groceries and do the shopping because I can have Walmart delivery do it for me. I don't know how much Walmart delivery costs in your area. I think in my area, it's maybe $70 a year or something like that. Plus you have to tip your driver. So that is a cost, but where I'm at in life right now, working full time, my hours cost me more than it costs to hire someone to do my grocery shopping for me, if that makes sense. It's less effective for me to go out and pick up groceries because my hours are worth more. So you may not be in that situation, but the other two still apply. So this became like incredibly useful, especially in very, very busy seasons. And like, I'm a busy person, obviously, but there are seasons where I'm just even more busy, like the season where I was traveling back and forth to another state for my dad's passing, or we just had to go to Michigan for a memorial for 3 of my family members. So like, just during those times, to have to like come home after you've dealt with emotionally heavy and also travel heavy things and think, oh my gosh, there's nothing in my house. What am I feeding these people, right? I don't have to do that anymore. It's on automate, and it's done to my family's preferences, and I'm not paying some crazy expensive like meal delivery service or anything like that for stuff that we're not going to eat. So if you want, you can even take this and get more granular. You can dial in the details as deep as you want. For me, there comes a point of like diminishing return where getting more and more granular just doesn't really make that big of a difference in the outcome. So something that I've started deciding that we're going to do now is I'm going to settle for 80%, right? If I can get AI to do the job that I would have done at 100% for 80%, but it buys me back hours of my time, that's fine. That's completely acceptable. That other 20% is not that big of a deal. And if it is, it's something that I can do if I choose to for myself anyway. So those are just like use case examples. So this became like compounding, right? As I was looking at the systems in my home and the things that I was still responsible for, even though I had all these other responsibilities, I was like, where else can I get compounding interest basically out of using AI to help me with these tasks? And every new idea that I came up with actually ended up like producing a new idea for where this could help. And it was just mind-boggling because all of a sudden I wasn't just using it as a task remover or a friction reducer. I was now using it to generate new ideas where it could potentially make a massive difference in my life. So that kind of flowed over into some homeschooling decisions as well. I applied the same principle to each of the decisions. The AI is only as good as the data that you're going to put in it. And I'm not talking about like your personal data, like stuff, passwords and stuff like that. Don't do that. That's dumb. But let's say you want to use AI to help you build a sustainable budget that's actually realistic for your family. You have to give it the real details. It can't work on data that it doesn't have. Just like if you were going to an accountant and you were asking your accountant to create you a realistic and followable budget, you couldn't hide that you were $50,000 in debt from your accountant because your accountant wouldn't know to include that into your budget, right? Same thing with AI. So the more data you can give, the better your output is going to be. The better your prompts are, and a prompt is just a directive to your AI, the better your outcome is going to be. And you just learn this through using it. So I applied the same principle I started applying the same principle to bigger decisions, not just logistics, which freed up so much mind space. No longer was I carrying all of these different open loops in my brain. I was able to create an open loop project in AI, just speak to it whenever I had a new thought or a new open loop come into my head. And then it was able to create a master open loop list, give me the things that were going to give me the biggest benefit for my specific situation to close, and then give me things that I could put on the back burner. And because AI is handling that master list there, it's not in my brain anymore, which meant I sleep better. I have more processing power in my 40s to do more complicated tasks like taking classes, taking certifications, going back to school, because I'm not having to think about, oh yeah, we do need to fix that crack in the ceiling, or oh yeah, the patio does need to be repainted. Like, I don't have to think about those things anymore because those things are parked somewhere where they're going to be handled in the appropriate time. So I was actually able to use that for a couple different homeschooling decisions as well. So every year my son takes the MAP tests, which is just like an online test to gauge where he's at against his standardized peers. And I don't know if MAP is accredited or anything. I have no idea. I don't really care. For me, it's just a way to kind of back up to my homeschool evaluator what we've done during the year. And it's simple. It's a simple thing. So I was able to take those MAP results, plug them into AI, and then use that data to pinpoint what classes my son should be taking at the homeschool co-op in the upcoming year. Which, like, our co-op offers hundreds of classes, so not hundreds, but dozens of classes, in probably 100 or more classes over like all of the age ranges, but dozens of classes for his age range. And instead of me having to guess what would be like the best for him, I could use the data that I gave AI and tell the AI, give me a list of the best fitting classes for my son, his temperament, his current goals, and maybe some like future career goals. And AI was able to give me back a list of classes that were going to fit him the best. And within that list, then I was able to show him the list and say, what are you interested in? Right? So I was able to take all the noise off the table. And I think that's why it's so clarifying, because it's able to cut through all of the noise. I put this note here that I don't think that test scores tell the whole story about a kid, but it's just a useful data point, right? So this then rolled over into much more recently. We had to buy a car. Our car finally died. It had 231,000 miles on it. We just couldn't make it work any longer. And because I'm working full time, we need to have a reliable car. Also, with recent health issues, we just need to have a reliable car. Can't have something that might be in the garage not working for an extended period of time. So I thought, there's so many options out there for cars. Why don't I let AI figure out what would be the best car for our family? Because I've already been inputting this data, right? I've already been talking to it about how practical we are, how we live our lives, blah, 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 blah. And then the AI was able to compile a list of basically 6 vehicles that it felt we should test drive first. And because it knew how practical I am and how I run my systems and how I run my life, it gave me, without prompting, a script to say to the car dealerships about why we're test driving and how we're not interested in buying right now, so that they don't pressure us, high sales pressure us into buying anything. Justin and I are both very conscientious people. So like, we're not going to tell the salespeople get lost, right? We need their help. We want to know about the features of the vehicles, but also we don't want to sit through an hour-long sales presentation and waste everybody's time when we're only here to test drive something. And the AI knew that about me and knew who I was. And so it was able to then just generate a script like, oh, here's 6 cars that I think would really work for your family, and your budget and your situation. And here's a script so you don't feel pressured into sitting through a sales presentation. You're just there to test drive. Oh my goodness. We were able to, in one weekend, test drive. I think we drove 8 or 10. I can't remember. But in the weekend, maybe it was 10, we were able to test drive 10 cars, which would not have been possible if we didn't have that script, because every single time we walked onto a dealership lot, the salespeople were out like the vultures, and our salespeople were wonderful for the most part. Don't get me wrong, but we were able to immediately tell the salesperson, we are just here to test drive. We are test driving all of the SUVs, all of the crossovers in this class size. Give us your best price, and so that we can compare this information to the next SUV that we're going to be test driving. And it cut down on so much noise. It just was so helpful. And then after that, so as we were test driving each of the different vehicles, we were giving the AI then the project that I had created. I was giving the AI our feedback on each of the vehicles. So the first vehicle that we test drove was a Nissan, I don't know, Pathfinder maybe. It was a Nissan. So in real time, I was able to tell the AI, here's what we thought about this car. Here was the price that the dealer was advertising. Here's the model number, or like the lot number or whatever. Here it was our impressions. Here's what we liked. Here's what we didn't like. And then in real time, AI was able to rank our cars, our test drives, based on what we felt at the time, the price, what the like the lot was saying it was worth or whatever. And so in the end, the car that we went in thinking we were going to buy is not the car that we bought at all. And so those first 6 cars that AI suggested we test drive didn't even end up being what we bought, but it was so clarifying because the AI was saying, wait, you're thinking about this vehicle, but up here you said you didn't like the same exact thing about a different vehicle. What's the difference? Why did you like that feature in this vehicle, but you didn't like it in that vehicle? And it was so helpful. It was just incredibly clarifying to have this interview and to have someone or something, to have the AI check us and making sure that we weren't making an emotional decision, because buying a car is a huge investment and we drive our cars until they die. So this was not something that we were out looking to buy like the best and the most and the newest, right? Like this is an investment for us, and hopefully it's an investment for you too. So the refinement loop basically ended up happening. We fed the AI real test drive feedback. It generated scores for each car, and then in the end, it actually made us a different suggestion, and that is the car that we ended up buying. We sat in it, and immediately it was like, yep, this is the car we're buying. We knew, but we didn't tell the salesman that because the AI had given us a script, essentially, to keep us calm, cool, collected, and to keep us focused on the base price, to keep us focused on the price, the final price, not payments, not financing options, not anything other than the final price. And because we were focused on that final price and we weren't making emotional decisions and we weren't having to remember all of these little details, we were able to get thousands of dollars taken off the final price, because I was able to go back and forth between 2 different dealers with the same or a similar vehicle and say, listen, dealer 1 is offering me this, can you beat it? And it got to the point where dealer 2 could no longer beat what dealer 1 was offering us. And so the decision to go with dealer 1 became crystal clear. We got a much better rate. We got many thousands of dollars taken off the final cost of the car. And it was a calm process because I wasn't emotionally invested anymore, because technically the AI was doing the emotional investment for me, right? And I just think like how completely invaluable that was. I mean, I can quantify it and say that it saved us thousands of dollars, but it also saved us hours and hours and hours of time. We got a short list, gave it real-time data, it gave us feedback, and then it made a suggestion based on everything else we were saying that wasn't even on that initial list. So it's not like the AI itself was pushing us towards one thing or another. It was using our data and telling us, based on your data, this might be a better idea for you. And lo and behold, it was. So I say all that to say that I get this reaction from my friends all the time. So if you found yourself watching this video and you're like, nah, it's still not for me, I completely understand, because in the use cases that I've described, I've had friends do the same thing. And initially they're like, oh, this is creepy robots, and the creepy robots are taking over. And I completely understand, because I was the same way initially. I was very skeptical. Remember, I'm a practical tech user. I'm not just a cheerleading early tech adopter. It has to have a practical use case or I'm not doing it. But all of my friends now who have switched to using some form of AI, not even ChatGPT or Claude, have said the same thing that I have said, that this is an invaluable tool. It's a tool just like any other tool. You can misuse a gun, you can misuse a hammer, you can misuse money, you can misuse any kind of tool. The tool is only going to be as as good as the data and the person who's entering the data. So I just had a friend who used AI to inventory her home library, which she's a homeschooler for many children, so she has thousands of books. She was able to photograph the shelves, and AI created for her an inventory, in which then later, after she decided she wanted to sell some of these, AI was able to create her listings for eBay, saving her tens and tens of hours of work where she didn't have to create these listings herself. I think that there's some nuance in this AI conversation, but I think that it's just about like very specific practical wins, and that's why I will continue to use it. I understand that there are moral and even real-time obligations to use, or not obligations. There's moral and real-time objections to using AI. For me, that doesn't negate the practical uses that the outworkings, where it's saving us hundreds, if not, well, thousands of dollars in the case of the car, probably hundreds or thousands of dollars in the case of food. Time, so much time, which has then opened me to be available for other things, like continuing my education, figuring out what I want to do in the next 20 to 30 years, what I want to do over the next 20 to 30 years. These are things that I could not, because I was just surviving, I could not have had space in my brain to occupy even thinking about them. So I think that I'm a problem solver. I'm not a tech enthusiast. So that would be my takeaway from this. So my verdict is that I am not asking you to use AI to become a tech person, because I don't think that's the use case for using AI as a homemaker, homeschooler, or as a mom. I think the use case is in the practical sense, where it can just take a lot of the mundane things off your plate and help you turn them into systems that make your home run better. When you're in charge of all of the things for your house, not having systems can be completely overwhelming, and not having clarity in what you're doing can cost you so much time, resources, bandwidth in your brain. Like, I can't describe how freeing using AI has been in the correct ways. I think you can go down some dark holes using AI, but I think that's like a person by person basis. The same thing applies to social media, of course. So I've been sitting on doing some more videos like this, like how I've actually used AI in homemaking, homeschooling, working from home, that kind of things, and not like the tech bro stuff, because clearly I'm not a tech bro. But, I want to hear from you. Was this video helpful? Did it kind of give you some things to ponder? Have you been using AI in your homemaking or in your homeschooling? And then would you be interested in a series on this, where I could maybe go through some more practical tips and things like that? This is just something that I'm like, I can't gatekeep this. This has been so helpful for me. And I'm not sure if this becomes a recurring series or not, but I just think that it could be an absolute game changer for you, especially if you're overwhelmed. And I think especially if you don't have anyone helping you, teaching you, like giving you guidance on these subjects. Like my husband and I'm a first generation Christian. We don't have help from family. We don't have a community. They're just like, this has been very helpful for us. It's been very helpful for me, but for us as well. So let me know what you thought. You know what? Have a great day. I love you. Bye.